Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. The vast majority of missing persons cases tend to be resolved in one of two ways. Either the person is found alive and is able to return home safely, or in much more grim circumstances, everyone's worst fears are confirmed and the person is tragically discovered to be dead. However, in rare situations, life chooses option C, and we end up with a surprising series of events that no one really ever saw coming. Today, we wanted to take a look at two cases like this, stories where missing persons investigations ended on a decidedly bizarre note. Before we get to the videos, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this. It really helps us to continue building the channel, and if you've watched a few of our videos already, you might not even realize that you're not subscribed. While you're there, don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. With that out of the way, here is part 1 of two missing persons cases with incredibly bizarre endings. At approximately 7 a.m. on May 17, 2014, employees at the Henderson Boulevard Whataburger in Kilgore, Texas, prepared to begin their early shift. It started off as an otherwise normal Saturday morning, except for the fact that one person was notably absent. That person was Christina Davison, a 43-year-old recently single woman who lived less than a mile away. The situation was immediately noticed by her coworkers. Not only was Christina never late, she normally arrived at work 30 minutes early. Her absence was so out of the ordinary that when more than an hour had passed with no sign of her, one of her friends and fellow employees, Melody Addy, went to her apartment on Elder Street to check on her. When Melody arrived, her concern turned to panic. The door to Christina's home was open and the TV was on, but her black 1992 Toyota Camry was missing. There was no sign of the 43-year-old anywhere. Christina's disappearance was immediately reported to the Kilgore Police Department, who arrived on the scene to begin an investigation. When officers conducted a search of Christina's home, they found additional cause for alarm. Though nothing appeared to be missing from the residence other than Christina and her vehicle, the home was in complete disarray and blood was discovered in several places. Though the amount of blood was not enough to suggest that the house was the scene of a murder, it appeared that in whatever state Christina had left in, it had been against her will. Further interviews with friends and co-workers revealed that Christina had last been seen the night before her disappearance, between 9 and 10 p.m. She had dinner with Melody Addy, the same co-worker who later went to her apartment to check on her. Melody told police that Christina appeared to be troubled by something as they spent time together that night, but that she hadn't told her anything about why. Police also questioned Christina's former common-law husband, Craig Davison, about her disappearance. Christina had previously lived at his property with him in Longview, just west of Hallsville, but had moved out months before. Craig said that he hadn't seen Christina in some time, and was cooperative with authorities. A search was conducted of his home, but nothing of interest was found. Soon after news of Christina's disappearance was reported in the local paper, it was also announced that her purse had been recovered near State Highway Loop 390 in Marshall, approximately 30 miles away. The purse had been discovered by police around the same time that Christina had been reported missing, and contained her credit cards and ID, but no cash. A ground search revealed several more personal items believed to belong to her, but did not include her cell phone. At this point, police reported that they were treating Christina's disappearance as suspicious, but did not elaborate on the details that led them to this conclusion. In particular, there was no mention of the fact that blood had been found at her residence. More details came on May 31st, when authorities announced that efforts to track Christina's cell phone had been unsuccessful. They said that the phone had either died or had been shut off, and still had yet to be recovered. Police also reported that there had been no activity on Christina's social media accounts or her bank accounts since the night that she had last been seen. Bank records failed to show any signs of suspicious transactions. Police said that the disappearance was now being treated as an abduction/homicide, and a few days later, the FBI was brought in to assist on the case. In July, it was reported that investigators were pursuing multiple persons of interest in the case, and that they hoped that DNA evidence recovered from the scene would help them to identify a possible perpetrator. They also said that though they had not been able to use Christina's cell phone to track her whereabouts, they were obtaining the cell phone records of several persons of interest in the hopes that it might crack open the case. On August 5th, it seemed like police had gotten the break in the case that they needed, when they officially announced that Craig Davison was a person of interest in the investigation and had been arrested. Though the arrest was not for Christina's abduction or murder, it seemed nonetheless incriminating. Authorities had arrested Craig on a family assault charge against Christina for a crime that had allegedly taken place the previous February. The charge was brought when police discovered that this was the incident that had caused Christina to move away from their home in Longview. Additionally, friends and family members told police that around the time she disappeared, Christina had feared for her safety. She had moved to Kilgore to get away from Craig, but worried that he had discovered where she was living. The idea that Christina was fearful for her life and was hiding from Craig at the time of her disappearance was further backed by the fact that almost everything on the 2-acre property in Longview was in her name, including a partially built residence, the travel trailer where Craig was living, a shop, and some outbuildings. Despite this, she had apparently not made any attempt to be financially compensated for her assets. Aside from these damning facts, Craig had a long criminal history that led police to believe that he was capable of committing a crime like this. He had numerous family assault charges dating all the way back to 1992, and had frequently been violent towards women. His latest criminal charge had been for assault with a deadly weapon in December of 2013, just a few months before Christina's disappearance. On the same day of Craig's August arrest, police began a much more meticulous investigation of the Longview property, conducting a grid search of the 2 acres, plus several additional acres of heavily wooded area that surrounded it. They also told local media that they had notified Christina's family members to prepare for the worst. However, despite a substantial effort on the part of police, nothing incriminating was found. Around the same time, DNA tests they conducted on blood and other samples taken from Christina's apartment came back as only belonging to Christina. Without sufficient evidence to hold Craig on the February assault charge, and with no new evidence unearthed in the case, Craig was released from custody. In September, it again briefly seemed like investigators might have something to tie him to Christina's disappearance, when reports emerged that police had been given 2 flash drives with disturbing images and videos on them. The drives had supposedly been obtained thanks to an informant, who had gotten them from a third party who had stolen them from Craig Davison's house. It was alleged that the drives contained proof of sexual abuse towards several women, one of whom was Christina Davison. However, police were cagey about what the drives actually contained, and at the same time that the existence of the drives was reported, it was also announced that the informant that had brought them to police had supposedly taken her own life. It would eventually be revealed that nothing of interest related to the case was found on the drives. It's also unclear if they actually even belonged to Craig Davison. A few more months passed with no substantial updates in the case, until in February of 2015, police made an announcement that no one was prepared for. It turned out that Christina Davison was alive and well, and had completely orchestrated her own disappearance. The revelation came after Christina was pulled over for a traffic violation at a gas station in Lexington, Kentucky at approximately 1 a.m. on February 4th. While officers were running her information, they came across an anomaly. It appeared that the woman had an outstanding warrant for her arrest in a controlled substance case in Texas. They contacted police in Kilgore, who were able to confirm that the woman was in fact Christina Davison. She had been living in Kentucky for nearly the entire time that authorities were searching for her, and had taken a new job as a waitress at a local barbecue restaurant. Because of the outstanding warrant, Christina was taken into custody by police in Lexington. she waived her right to protest extradition and was soon sent back to Texas. In the aftermath of Christina's safe return, authorities in Kilgore, who had been working on the investigation for nearly 9 months, described feeling mixed emotions about the case. On the one hand, they were happy that a heinous murder hadn't occurred, but on the other, they had sunk countless man-hours and a substantial sum of money into their search effort. Frustrations were further exacerbated by the fact that Christina apparently hadn't actually broken any Texas laws in relation to her sudden disappearance, so there was no recourse for authorities to recoup any of the costs associated with the investigation. Based on the reports that we could find, it also seems that no one ever actually got a 100% clear answer from Christina as to why she disappeared in the first place. Of course, there was the theory about her fear of her abusive ex, but many news reports simply stated that she just wanted to start a new life. As to why she went to such elaborate lengths to do so, as far as we can tell, the truth remains with Christina. One final note worth mentioning is that though Craig Davison was wrongly accused of being responsible for Christina's disappearance, he wouldn't stay out of the public eye for long. In April of 2016, he was one of 3 people charged in relation to the murders of 2 men whose bodies were discovered near some train tracks in Longview. He was eventually convicted of aggravated kidnapping and sentenced to 54 years in prison for his role in the crime. Do you know of any other cases like this that you think we should check out? Tell us about them in the comments section below. As always, if you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. Thank you for watching.